Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the January 24, 2023 County Administrator Issues and Updates. County Administrator Gary Schmidt, you're up.
Thank you, Chair Smith. We'll start with Water Environment Services. Chair, if you would please convene as Water Environment Services Board.
We will recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as a Water Environment Services.
All right, this is Water Environment Services, request for consent agenda. Item 1, approval of a sponsorship agreement with Solve for waterway cleanup events. The agreement value is $150,000 for 5 years. Funding is through Water Environment Services Surface Water Operating Funds. No county general funds are involved. Ron Waringa is the Assistant Director of Water Environment Services. Go ahead.
Good morning, Chair Smith, Commissioners. Ron Waringa, Water Environment Services. I'm here today to ask for your support in continuing a partnership between WES and Solve by approving the recommended 5-year agreement. This partnership started in 2018 and helps us produce the Summer Waterway Cleanup Series, which benefits waterways and watersheds throughout Clackamas County, our service area, and beyond. For those who are unaware, the purpose of these cleanups is to remove trash along waterways that is either deposited in them or carried to them by storm systems that would otherwise harm the streams and wetlands if left unattended. Our projects that we've been doing with Solve typically occur in the Clackamas, Sandy, and Willamette River watersheds. This work helps us protect water quality in Clackamas County, helps us reduce pollution to rivers, streams, and wetlands, and really shows support from the county in increasing availability of clean water to residents. And it's also part of our permitted activity to do these types of stewardship opportunities in our surface water service area. To date, these partnerships have been highly successful. Over the past 5 years, we've collectively cleaned up 119,000 pounds of trash with 7,400 volunteers, 500 of which were youth. We've also had the opportunity to connect with local businesses through these efforts like Bob's Red Mill. The series has been well received by local media. We get a lot of attention for it, which helps us also with our engagement. And really, because of this impressive work, the county was awarded a 2021 National Association of Counties Achievement Award in the category of volunteers. So it's been recognized as being highly valuable. If the contract's approved, we'll augment our district cleanups to, going forward, include equitable opportunities for underserved and excluded communities that also benefit from healthy watersheds. Our hope is to foster a new generation of watershed stewards while doing this important work together. If approved, we look forward to continue our collaboration with Solve in promoting cleaner and healthier waterways for generations to come. And I'll take any questions if you have them.
Thank you. What a wonderful project. I noticed that the 2020 award came during COVID, and that is even additionally remarkable. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, great program. I know that a lot of people do float the river. They leave all kinds of stuff there, but it's also being part of some of the Solve events, things that are not related to those that recreate. Just the garbage and junk that we pull out of there every year is just shameful. But I'm glad we're removing it, but it just seems like it never ends. So stuff that just does not belong in our streams and rivers. So
thank you very much. Any further questions or comments? Seeing no objections, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Chair, would you convene as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Board?
I will recess as a Water Environment Services and convene as a North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District.
All right, this is North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. This is seeking your approval, Commissioners, of the 2023 North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Board of Directors meeting dates. There was a memo in your packet. They are once a quarter, all Wednesday evening, 6 p.m. at the Concord School. But want to confirm the dates for you. Mike Bork, the Director of NCPRD, is here if you have any questions, but just seeking a yes or no. May we put these on the calendar or not?
Thank you. Mike, go ahead.
I don't really have anything more to add. Just here if there are any questions or we need to modify that, but we wanted to put these dates forward as we had promised at our last board meeting.
I like these dates. I like the quarterly meetings. It gives us time to evaluate and move forward. And I also ask that you provide a very ambitious agenda ahead of time with some topics that are the most concern of the organization and the people it serves.
Will do.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I'm fine with this. What has come up that I just want to just prompt my colleagues and staff and see if we can't figure out how we make an adjustment, but it's especially impactful here because the infrequency that the Board of Directors meets for the NCPRD. So the issue that I mean, I should have realized it, but it really came to light here this weekend, and that is that our agendas and packets are released for the public for the following week on a Thursday afternoon, evening, right? And essentially, that if they see something, NCPRD or whatever, or a work session item, there's no opportunity for the public to comment or speak to us in advance of that discussion or meeting, right? If it's a work session, for example, and it's on Tuesday or it's on Wednesday, there's no opportunity. So I just wonder if there's, not today, but I just want to just plant the seed that, especially for NCPRD, there's just not enough time, frankly. So I just wondered if there's an opportunity to explore looking at either getting the packet out in advance, farther in advance, maybe 10 days in advance, to allow the public to speak to us, if they have something that they want us to know in general. But if you think about the timing, there's no way. For example, in this weekend, it came up about the February 1st work session on libraries, for example. That was one of the things. If we get the packet on this Thursday, there's no opportunity to speak to the Board of Commissioners.
Gary, your comments on that?
That's good input, thank you. So right now, staff want to make sure you have the most up-to-date information for your staff reports to help you make good decisions for the meetings the following week. We can certainly move the deadline ahead, but it puts pressure on staff to give you the most up-to-date information in enough time for you to read it and for the public to read it. That's why we do it the Thursdays before.
And Paul, I don't discount what you're saying. The public, sometimes doesn't cue in until the last minute. But what I've also noticed with staff, since I set the agendas, is the staff wants to make sure that we have all the information, that nothing comes in at the last minute. And so there's a stressor between satisfying the public in advance and whether they pay attention or not, and then there's the stressor of trying to get the most accurate information. The only solution to me is if we post draft agendas maybe 2 weeks in advance, and then we go back and we post a final agenda at the normal time. That's the only solution that I can see that might work on that. And it will take advanced thought on all staff to do that, and it could be in every single one of our boards. And that would be, to me, a big policy change. And just remember, commissioners, we are doing less with less. And you're going to be hearing me say that a lot. We are doing less with our employees' hours and all the budgets across every single spectrum. So every action we take is going to have an adverse reaction that we hadn't thought of. Paul.
Yeah, that might be a good idea, that the 2-week advance draft kind of a thing. That would help allow the cadence for the public to review at least what we got and what we know, and maybe they inform, frankly. So if we left something out, there are some issues that are pretty cut and dry. There's some issues that are very complex that go back years. Certainly we have an abundance of that as well. But I was also reminded in some of the discussions I had regarding just the public aspect of this, and that is that there are jurisdictions, cities and counties, not all, some, that they'll have a work session, but there'll be no decision for 2 weeks or 30 days, and they'll bring it back so that the public's aware, staff's aware, they work it all out, the commissioners or the city councilors can study it, and then they go and they make their decision the following month or following 2 weeks. We don't do that here. We kind of do it all at once.
Well, it's because we have all of these specialized boards and commissions that the cities don't. That's the rub on this. I think, we can certainly be a little bit flexible, but it's also going to delay any action that this board will take on really timely issues and information. So I am not willing to go down that road, but I am willing to have a draft agenda for NCPRD and some of these specialized districts, and then come back with a more final agenda. Ben, you're up.
I'm a fan of work sessions. It's not totally exactly like the chair said, apples to apples, or it's not an exact comparison. But the work sessions were always beneficial and engaging in public. I have no idea what I'm about to say is even possible. But if we don't expand it for 2 weeks, is there a way to allow public comment at one of our other 3 meetings in the week? Or does
We
it have to
always-
be at the business meeting only, or is there flexibility there? I'm just throwing an idea.
No, it's not an idea, it's a generalized practice, that all of these, when we engage in these boards, especially NCPRD, there's always ample opportunity for public communication to come forward and give us their ideas. And that's, to me, the main reason that we have the NCPR meeting in district is to go out into the community and listen. That's always an option for anybody. And the people on this district and any other district can always come back to our business meeting and make comments. They have done that in the past regularly, and I encourage them to do that again. Gary?
May I suggest you discuss this at your retreat when you have more time? And you're also meeting as the NCPRD board right now, and that's a county issue you're discussing, so.
So do we need a motion to approve these dates?
Yes, that would be
I'll
helpful.
entertain a motion to approve it. Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, I move to approve the dates for the NCPRD Board of Directors meetings for 2023 as stated in the memorandum before us today.
Second.
Commissioner Scholl has moved the approval of the meeting dates for NCPRD. Commissioner Savas has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Tony, please call the poll.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Director Savas, yes.
Apologies. Director Scholl,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chair, would you now convene as the Board of County Commissioners?
I will recess as the North Clackamas Parks and Rec District and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners.
These are requests for consent agenda under the regular county business agenda. First up, Technology Services. Item 1, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Sandy for construction, operation, and maintenance of internet services on the Clackamas Broadband Exchange fiber network. Total value is $2,155,680 over 10 years. Initial funding is through the county board-approved ARPA funds allocated to Clackamas Broadband Exchange, then will be self-sufficient through customer fees. No county general funds are involved. Lanu Parapilli is the Director of Technology Services, and Duke Dexter is the Broadband Exchange Manager. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. We are here today to request you to approve and sign an IGA between CBX and City of Sandy to provide internet services throughout Clackamas County. CBX will utilize the Clackamas County ARPA funding that is already approved by the board. We are estimating that we can provide about 1,600 new residential sites, the services for those with this effort. The total contract term is for 10 years, and there is a potential that we could generate up to $2.15 million in gross revenue, which will cover the operating costs for the fiber expansion. And we are also hoping this is the first of many such partnerships which will benefit our residents in Clackamas County. We request you to approve this IGA.
Thank you very much. We have Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, I just want to thank both of you for yesterday. I was getting briefed not only ahead of time on this piece, but also some of the past things that we have done to extend broadband in Clackamas County, largely because the National Association of Counties has asked me to look at that and bring it forward in February as, how our policies have really expanded broadband. So thank you for taking the time to give me not only this current history, which I knew was coming forward, but also the past history, and thanks for helping out with those talking points as we once again probably get to present nationally about how Clackamas County does things with our ARPA dollars and every other thing we do. Thanks, guys.
Do you have a construction timeline when this will begin and finish?
We've already begun, so we've connected up 55 homes at this time as part of the project. Completion for the $10.1 million is scheduled for around June of 2026.
So this particular is for the city of Sandy and the area out there, correct? Have you finished that?
No, that's,
That's my question. On this particular agreement we're being asked to approve today.
so.
Have you finished?
No, we are not finished.
Do you have a timeline for finish, was my question.
June of 2026. So there are
Okay.
9 separate areas that we've identified and brought to the board, and we've completed 1, and then we're looking to expand to the other ones. So we've completed 1 out of 9 projects. Does that answer the question?
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, the way the packet is written, the summary, it appears to me that the 1,600 new residential units or sites is a result of this, of the 10.1, or is it the 2.2?
Yeah.
The 10.1.
The 10.1, okay, thank you. I do understand that this is a rollout, and this is not within the city, this is outside the city, but a partnership with the city. But the actual sites we're adding are not in the city, they're external in the unincorporated, correct?
That is correct.
Okay,
And that's been our target
right.
with the ARPA funds, is to get out into areas that have been underserved or not served. And I think you're doing a very good job on that. Any further comments or questions?
Yes, Chair, just want to thank my colleagues all here that supported this, the 10.1 we did with ARPA funds to grow our broadband, so thank you, and this is an example of that progress.
Good, thank you. Commissioner Schrader?
The other thing the folks have been exceptional with is that they've been working their business plan that they have on how to work with this. We talked about this yesterday as well with the smaller providers. So we become the highway, but the business plan of how to work with them directly, the smaller ones like Beaver Creek and not only Sandy, but I'm going blank on the name of the one in Estacada.
Reliance Connects.
Yep, okay. So what they've done is that we're not trying to compete with the smaller local businesses. We're trying to get more capacity in the system so there can be more options to provide rural access in those areas. So, and I commend you with that, because that was a big rub, actually, when we first started working on this, I think.
Thank you very much for that. Any further comments? Seeing no objections to this, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is Resolution Services. Item 1, approval of an amendment increasing funding from a grant agreement with Oregon Housing and Community Services for mediation services to manufactured home park communities. The amendment value is $50,000. Grant value is increased to $64,000 for 2 years. Funding is through the Oregon Housing and Community Services Department. No county general funds are involved. Amy Herman is the Interim Director of Resolution Services. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Gary. Is this on? Okay.
Yes.
Good morning, Chair Smith and all the commissioners. This is an opportunity for us to get more funding for some work that we already do. So this is a one-time increase in the grant for through the end of this year. And so we've been typically getting from Oregon Housing and Community Services about $7,000 a year. And this year, they increased to $50,000 over a 2-year period. But it's occurring late in the grant cycle, so we'll have it through the end of this year.
Questions or comments? Commissioner Shaw.
Yes, manufactured and home communities are one of our more affordable communities in the county. Many of our manufactured home parks have problems with rising rents. I know at least one up in Welch's, the residents recently purchased their mobile home park, thereby giving themselves some real security for the future. Is this the work you're doing here in this grant? Are you also working with residents of manufactured communities to do the same thing?
We can do those kinds of special projects. Typically, we're working with people who have a dispute with their landlord, well, not their landlord, but that the people who own the property that their homes are on. They own their homes, but they rent their space. So in order to help people stay housed, we can get involved as mediators with the conversation that they might have with the people who are deciding whether or not they're going to stay in their home. If they can't pay their rent, they can be evicted, but they get evicted out of a home that they own. So that's even more of a burden because they can't afford necessarily to move it. There have been times in the past where we've worked with whole communities to facilitate conversations around whether or not they're going to purchase or have the opportunity to purchase the whole park. But the typical work that we do is more between individuals. So people are trying to remain housed by cleaning up their property, paying their back rent that they owe for the space, or having conversations about how they can get along better with their neighbors.
All right, well, good. Thank you for your work.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, just one thing, it's, I have learned that there are good operators of mobile home parks and local good operators that maintain the property, have a business plan in place to put monies aside to make sure they can repair the water lines and the asphalt and all of that. And there's always a concern when someone lets it go and just continues to collect the rents that the property goes downhill. It's always my hope that when there is an acquisition where a nonprofit comes in and buys it and there's this mediation process, but hopefully that there's a business plan that they will adopt to make sure that the rents are adequate enough to put away the monies to maintain it so that when a water line fails or they need something, they're not in disrepair and in the headlines of the news, right, that they don't have any water. So those are just some of the things that are complex. Again, there's good operators, there's not so good operators, but I just wanted to point that out.
Good, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing no objections, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, disaster management. Item 1, approval of an amendment increasing funding for Citizen Corps equipment from a grant agreement with the City of Portland for the 2021 Urban Area Security Initiative Grant. Amendment value is $21,590. Grant value is increased to $623,465 for 2 years. Funding is through the Federal Emergency Management Agency. No county general funds are involved. Daniel Neibauer, Director of Disaster Management. Go ahead.
Good morning, Chair Smith, Commissioners, Administrator Schmidt. These funds came available during reprogramming from other jurisdictions that were not able to use it, so we put in a request for this $21,590 for equipment and support to the community emergency response teams, as well as some equipment for the amateur radio emergency services that support us during a EOC activation.
Questions or comments? Commissioner Schrader?
Just a question about UIC. Do we have anybody serving on that board, or are you serving on that board?
Chair Smith serves on the policy committee. I serve on the steering committee.
Thank you very much. Seeing no objections, thank you.
Thank you. Next, Health, Housing, Human Services. Item 1, approval of a federal subrecipient blueprint grant with Cascade AIDS Project Esther's Pantry for senior nutrition. Grant value is $108,000 for 1 year. Funding is through the Older Americans Act. No county general funds are involved. Rod Cook, Director of Health, Housing, Human Services. Go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. Yes, if funded, the grant funds will be used for the preparation and distribution of food boxes. For the duration of the agreement, clients may get boxes up to twice each month. On average, each household gets about 3 boxes. Larger households get about 4 to 5 boxes.
Question, Commissioner West.
I was just really pleased to see that we were able to help Esther's Pantry. I don't know how well my fellow colleagues understand this, the importance of this charity, but they're a charity that really meets specific needs of LGBTQ senior citizens who are at high risk for food insecurity, housing insecurity, medical care. They're some of the most vulnerable people in the entire population. So this is a charity that my family is very dear to our heart. They do fantastic work, and then really it's work that I think that most people in the community could really get behind. So thank you for bringing this before us, and Esther's Pantry is such a worthy cause.
Agreed.
Further questions or comments? Seeing none and no objections, thank you.
Item 2, approval of a county-based services revenue agreement with Health Share of Oregon for behavioral health care and services. Agreement value is $4,184,447 for 1 year. Funding is through the Oregon Health Plan. No county general funds are involved.
Yes, this one may seem familiar because the agreement was recently approved by the board on December 15th, 2022. Following approval, Oregon Health Share went through some significant changes at their leadership level, and so basically this is a housekeeping measure they've changed out the signature lines of the old ED, and now they have the new ED and their other interim ED, and so we just need to re-sign the same contract you already signed.
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, the last item is not on your agenda because you just discussed it in executive session, but so I follow the right order process. I want to seek your approval to add to consent agenda this Thursday an item from Human Resources. It is a collective bargaining agreement between Clackamas County and the Federation of Parole and Probation Officers, or FAPO, a 3-year contract from 2022 to 2025. The staff report's being written today. We'll get it to you and post it online, but just seeking your approval to add that to your consent agenda this Thursday.
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Great, thank you. So all of these items will be on this Thursday's business meeting agenda for your formal approval. Next item, naming of new roads in the Fuller Station community. There's a memo in your packet. Dan Johnson from Transportation and Development will present.
Chair Smith, Commissioners, good morning. I'm not sure if you know it. Well, I know Commissioner West does because he was on these new roads here recently. The Clackamas County Development Agency recently built 2 new roads down by the Fuller Station area. You may also not know that we have a road naming code. Sections 7.05.040 establishes a process and procedure for naming new roads. Essentially, it dictates that these names can be approved by the county administrator, or they can go for a public hearing if they are more confrontational in nature and the board desires so. Staff has reviewed these roadways and are proposing 2 roads, or 2 road names for the board's consideration. One, staff would recommend the east-west road be named Geller Way in honor of Anna Geller. I'm not sure if all of you knew her, but she passed here recently and was a big supporter of affordable housing in and around the area. And I can name these off: Fuller Road, 85th and Causey, Eidelman Project, Monterey, others. Big proponent of the provision of affordable housing throughout our community. For the north-south road, staff is proposing Lottie Lane. Constance and Lottie Batten were the owners of the donation land claim that included the area for the new road. An existing road to the north, Batten, was named for Mr. Batten, and so this would be named in her honor. Staff doesn't see any interest or not any opposition to these names as proposed, and sees no reason for a public hearing unless the board should desire to have one, and respectfully recommends that the board authorize the county administrator to approve these staff recommendations before you today. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Well, you know, I knew Anna Geller, and it was just a sad, sad occurrence that she passed because she provided, I believe, a model to provide affordable housing not only to Clackamas County residents, but it's a model that can be followed by other jurisdictions as well. She was able to secure funding without asking the jurisdictions for tax breaks to make her projects pencil out. If she was alive here today, I believe she would still be doing the same. And as for the Battens, Lottie Lane, I think that has such a nice little ring to it. Those people had just been so generous in their donations to Clackamas County, and I think that's just a small thank you that we give to both of these people by naming roads after them. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I concur with the chair's comments. Anna was a a very compassionate lady who built a lot of housing, and we were able to break ground and cut ribbons on some of her projects. And she also did a lot to help feed those who are hungry and at one of her facilities on Monterey. So, yeah, I just really miss her, and this is a great tribute to her. A small one, but it's the least we can do.
Seeing no objections, do we need to vote on this at all?
Yes, please.
I'll entertain a motion. Thank you.
I move that we approve in honor of Anna Geller, a street named Geller Way, and in honor of Constance and Lottie Batten, a street named Lottie Lane.
Second.
Commissioner Scholl has moved for the approval of the name of Geller Way and Lottie Lane for 2 new roads in the Fuller Station area, and Commissioner Savas has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, please take the poll.
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you for your good work on this, Dan.
Thank you. So to confirm, we are not having a public hearing, but rather you're directing me, per the county code, to implement these changes. So thank you, commissioners. Next, review of your business meeting for this Thursday, January 26, 2023, 10 o'clock a.m. You have all the consent agenda items you approved today. You will have 2 public hearings, both for the Service District Number 5, which is the street lighting district. There's a request for a petition change and then regular boundary changes that you normally would do. So if you have any questions on any of these items, please let me know, and I'm happy to answer them prior to Thursday. Next, advisory board and commission appointments. Tony, go ahead, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. Beginning with the Traffic Safety Commission, which has 7 openings on the commission due to term expirations and resignations. Through a recruitment process, received a total of 8 applications. In the course of interviewing, only 7 applicants were interviewed. All 7 are recommended for appointment. 4 are new, 3 are currently on the board. The recommendation is as follows: Jeanette DeCastro to a 1st term, Andrew Labonte to a 1st term, James Waddington to a 1st term, William Farley to a 1st term, Nathan McCarty to a 3rd term, Christopher Larson to a 3rd term, Bob Carl to a 4th term.
Questions or comments?
Yes, Chair. I had brought this up last week. I appreciate staff getting the information back. I'm just hopeful that the next round we can get more people in the rural areas. The rural roads are probably the most dangerous roads, don't have much in the way of a fog line or pull-off areas and so forth. And so I'm just hoping we can get more rural representation on this committee.
Yep, thank you. I agree with that as a person who drives rural roads all the time. I will accept a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
Commissioner Savas has moved for the approval for the Safety Commission of Jeanette DeCastro, Andrew Labonte, James Waddington, William Farley, Nathan McCarty, Christopher Larson, and Bob Carl. Commissioner Schrader has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, please take the poll.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0, and I want to thank these people who are willing to serve as volunteers. Bob, thank you for coming today. Okay, what's up next, Gary?
One more ABC. Tony, go ahead.
The Compensation Board for Elected Officials has 1 opening on the board due to a term expiration. Through a recruitment process, 2 applications were received. Recommended for appointment is Amy Smith to a 1st term.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move approval.
Second.
Commissioner Schrader has moved the approval of Amy Smith to the Compensation Board for for elected officials. Yeah, we're electric sometimes, aren't we? And Commissioner Schrader has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, please take the poll.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Amy Smith, for volunteering to do this. Gary, what's next?
Next is Association of Oregon Counties Annual Membership Dues. Chair Smith, I'm happy to talk about it, or if you'd like to tee it up, whatever you prefer.
I'll tee it up. So we had a printout of the increase in dues that was sitting here. However, there was a mistake in the calculation. We pay general dues and we pay 2 special timber dues assessments. And it has come to my attention in my tri-chairs meeting, and Chair Harrington from Washington County has been extremely disturbed by a growing trend at AOC. 2 years ago, she said Washington County's dues increased by 34%. This year's Washington County dues increased by 20%. That's a 54% increase in Washington County's dues over 2 years. And she went with a proposal before her board of directors and asked for only a 4% increase, because in Washington County, that's what their property tax revenue increase was, 4%. We've had much discussion also with the chair of Multnomah County, Jessica Vega Peterson, was equally disturbed. I believe Multnomah County's dues increased for last year were 28%. She is bringing that before her board to ask them what they want to do. Gary, can you tell us, so commissioners, I'm sorry that there's not a paper here at the last minute, it had to be changed. So tell us exactly what our dues increase over the last several years have been.
Yes, so from 2021, you paid total dues, which is the base dues plus membership in the Council of Forest Trust Land Counties. 2021, you paid $92,662. In 2022, again, the base dues plus the forest land, the total dues you paid was $111,260, which was a 20% increase from 2021. The current proposed bill for 2023 dues, including the base dues and Council of Forest Trust Land Counties, is $129,050, which is a 16% increase from 2022. The total increase from 2021 to 2023 is 33% in the dues.
36%.
36%, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Commissioners, what I'm proposing is, yes, we pay our dues, but the increase is horrendous. I don't know of any budgets in Oregon right now, except for the legislature, where they print their own money and bond and then disperse it, that anybody can. I've talked to Gina Nickel about this. I've talked to other Association of County members about it. In November, I stayed at the business meeting. I think Martha and I were the only one of this commission that stayed at and we debated this issue. They promised us that they would work on the dues, and they listened to us, they assured us that they would get a handle on the dues, and then we get this huge increase. My discussion with Gina Nickel was, well, they bought a new building. Okay, they bought a new building. And they want to set aside a huge amount of money for the maintenance over time on that building. So they're putting some of the upfront costs on that. And I says, Gina, it's not up to, and I still think this, it's not up to the counties to set aside the maintenance for the building. This organization needs to be more proactive on going out and finding sponsors like other organizations have done to backfill any shortages they have. They have tried to make corrections in their budget. I think they've had a RIF, a reduction in staff, to take care of some of this stuff. And it also came up the value that the organization is posing to the counties. Now, I'm not going to debate that with anybody here, but I have to tell you what the 2 largest counties are saying. And I believe, commissioners, we are almost at a breaking point, quite possibly, with the 2 largest counties. So I'm proposing today that we pay the dues with only a 4% increase. It's a reflection of the property tax receipts we receive from a very generous tax-paying public. Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, I'll be abstaining from this vote today because I serve on the executive committee of the Association of Oregon Counties. And there is significant institutional memory about how we came to this piece of dues paying. It was because the previous executive director was transferring dollars from the transportation monies that they had in order to do the backfill for the counties. And although there was nothing illegal about that, it was largely because he was in a position where we were asking him to do more and more, and the counties as a whole would not increase dues. So this has been a continuing issue. So what happened was, under the leadership of the previous president and Jessica Vega Peterson, interestingly enough, they came up with a dues structure, a formula that was they felt was fair. And as you know, Chair Smith, you did get a letter explaining why and where and when that happened with the membership fee calculation. So it's the Board of Directors that set the membership fees for every year. I am also a member of the Board of Directors, so I have been aware of this for a while. I understand the constraints we're under. I would also like to say that there's probably some other issues going on in the background, in that there has been a rift, in my opinion, between the rural and urban counties, largely because Jessica Vega Peterson was on board to be president, had gone through the entire process. And at the last minute, the rural counties who did not want to have anyone from from up here be president, I'm the only one from up here that has been president for a while, made a motion from the floor, and it was decided by a flip of the coin. We also attempted, I will say, at the last meeting, to fix that, because that's not particularly a professional way to go, and the person that won the towing costs had not been through any process through this. So I just want to let everyone know that we did have folks from Multnomah County involved with the dues piece. I personally think there's a little more to this than meets the eye, and I can find that extremely understandable. And it's also that we are always feeling as if we're subsidizing our rural counties. I don't think this problem is going to go away. I think if you want to cap it at 4%, I would say that seems reasonable, but I will not be taking a vote on this today because I wish that you would have an opportunity to speak directly with Gina and
did.
President Derek DeGroot, right? And is she aware that we're going to be capping it at 4%?
I told her I was going to bring it from board. Like I said in my introductory remarks, I had a very long call with Gina Nickel about this. And then she explained to me that one of the reasons is the past president has a huge roll-up cost for maintenance on their new building. That's fine. They should figure out a different way to buy the new building and/or the maintenance going up. Commissioner Schrader, you alluded to something.
I will also say something that, no, I'm sorry, don't interrupt me, Chair. I will also say something about this in that I agree with you on the maintenance cost. And I do know for a fact, as part of the board and part of the executive committee, that they are really further working on getting external donors to help fill those gaps. So just to give you some assurance, that is in process as well.
Well, it's in process, but as you admitted in your statements, this has been an ongoing problem for many, many years, and it's been too easy for this organization to go to its member counties, especially the largest donating counties, and think that we're going to supplement it. Now, I talked to a commissioner from a smaller county, and they said, well, we do that because you guys have all this money. And I said, well, we also have the population that we need to serve. We also are dealing with the brunt of the problems in the state. We're also dealing with this and this. Did you know this? Did you know this? And I explained in very basic terms the budget pressure that we're under, and her response was, gee, no, I didn't know that. So it is the attitude of the counties who don't appear to be, quote, as rich as we are. They look at our overall budget, which is in the billions, and they think, wow, you're rich, you can afford it. I also am mindful of the fact that some of the counties go to AOC for their policy advice, or they don't have the people on their staffs, nor can they afford the policy outreach, for instance, that we're able to employ. You know, we have very capable people in our PGA. We have our policy advisors. We have our lobbyists. We have 3 sets of lobbyists. Most counties do not know that. And I've always been very generous with what Clackamas County has. Smaller county, if you need something, let us know. We can be a word for you. So it's not that we're working in a vacuum and unaware of what other counties are doing. But this is an ongoing problem, and every year AOC raises the dues and nobody objects, and nobody objects. I will remind you, it's a 36% increase over 2 years for us, for Washington County. It is a 54% increase over 2 years. And with Multnomah County, it's probably at least a 54% increase. Now, I'm not asking for us not to pay the dues. I think a 4% increase for anybody in this recessionary time of inflation and budget right-siding is very generous. I think that we're being very generous, and I do think it sends a message that we need to encourage them to be more frugal. Thank you. Mark, you're up. Mark is up. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate the staff of the Association of Oregon Counties and all the work they do. The budget for 2023 for AOC is $1,484,574. We're being asked, again, to pay a very large increase. Now, part of that, I think, is because Jackson County has refused to pay dues for 2023, and AOC wants to add what their cut would be onto the rest of us, so that adds a little bit.
That's true.
I would suggest that what AOC should have done there is, instead of transferring that Jackson County dues to the rest of us, is just cut back on their budget a little bit, cut back on their services, like we all do. For the folks from AOC who are listening to this meeting this morning, Clackamas County is really working on maintaining a balanced and sustainable budget. And I know $129,000 might seem small when you bounce it off the size of our budget, but every dollar does count. So I do support the 4% idea.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Scholl. Commissioner Sabbas?
I've got a different perspective. You know, I might be nice to maybe somewhat, won't say boast, but, you know, talk about the 3 big counties. But, you know, there's 5 big counties at least. Marion County is not very far behind, 350,000 people. Lane County is 380,000. You know, they are more rural than we are. And I've watched this at AOC for 12 years, and I look at it like this. The urban counties, the metro counties, have a lot of political power, and the city of Portland. It gives them a lot of political power, and that power is demonstrated in a lot of ways. At the legislature, most of the legislators come from the Portland metro area. They throw their weight around. We, the counties, suffer from some of those mandates, if you will, unfunded mandates passed on to local jurisdictions like counties and cities as a result of the urban metro dominance of this state. So the burden upon AOC and the counties to lobby on the behalf of the rural part of this state is necessary. So I understand about the building. I understand. I sat through all those meetings about the budget. They've cleaned that up. They've made the repairs, the financial repairs. I sympathize, frankly, with the other 33 counties. And so, granted, it's a lot. I don't disagree that when you look at the amounts has gone up. I don't see that sustaining for years to come, but I have a different view. I am going to vote no on a reduction I will vote yes for meeting our obligation. And maybe I'm wearing the hat of 33 counties or my colleagues south of here, but, I've watched this. And I'm not saying it's Clackamas County as much, because it's not, but I have more of a rural feel of this, and I sympathize, I empathize, frankly, with my rural colleagues. And I think we need to strengthen AOC as much as possible to help counter the urban dominance, the metro dominance of this state, frankly. They need every penny they can get.
Commissioner West.
It's my perception that this board is very sympathetic to the rural parts of the state. This is a tough conversation. Thank you, Chair, for bringing it forward. I think you did, right? And we are having to be really responsive to our budget and find every single place we can to be creative and fair. However, one of the only firewalls against insane policies coming from the metro area are the counties and local governments. I just sat down and had a long meeting with Mayor Tom Ellis in Happy Valley. And even these municipalities in these counties have the same fear that our autonomy and authority within local governments is either being abdicated or just flat out stripped away. Unfunded mandates. Our ability to lobby is becoming less and less as we continue to see large majorities with one dominant party rule. Large swaths of this state that we all love want to join Idaho. It's in the news every week. I think we have to invest in the allies that are all so often marginalized and told to stay put, to stay quiet, as we divest and snub our nose in the metro area at some of the greatest hardworking Oregonians in our state. I'm sorry that Washington County and Multnomah County are predictably ruffled over AOC, because the worldview pushing back and trying to bring balance to this state sometimes is AOC. And we've all been there and felt that at different times. And we have that same common shared goal with AOC. And so there's no pointing fingers at this board. And this is an important conversation because we need to make this statement to the region and to the state as one of the big counties, as one of the big dogs. And I'm here to defend that part of the state. I think we all share that in our hearts. And so I would vote to pay our dues and to not limit it to the 4% increase, and continue to be collaborative with AOC to find those budgets going forward where we can work with them, and let them know we are being sensitive and watching it. It is our job to be a watchdog, but I also think it's our job to be their biggest advocate because we are the biggest dog on their side.
Any further comments? Commissioner Scholl.
Well, again, I support and I appreciate the work that AOC does, but right now, this morning, I would guess that in many counties around the state, boards of commissioners are having the same talk that we're having this morning. And it's this kind of discussion that will adjust AOC's budget requirements for both this year and in the future. That's what we're doing. We're trying to bring some balance between the needs of the Association of Oregon Counties, which we agree with. We know they have expenses, and then trying to balance that with our own personal needs, costs, and abilities to pay.
I'll entertain a motion.
Chair
Who wants to make
Smith,
a motion?
Chair Smith, I move that we pay our full amount of owed dues by the AOC formula as requested.
I'll second that.
A motion has been made by Commissioner Savas to pay the AOC dues as billed. Gary, would you repeat the amount, please?
Yes, the total amount, base dues and membership in the Council of Forest Trustland Counties is $129,050.56.
Okay, $129,050.50. Commissioner West has seconded that. Correct. Further discussion?
Well, I'd just like to remind the board again that this increase is a 36% increase over just 24 months ago. Thank you.
Yeah, I've tried to make that comparison, but Commissioners, we're going to be faced with a lot of decision points on budgets that affect our citizens in our own county. And so if this vote passes today, then the message that we're sending to our taxpayers is we're paying for the other 33 counties who don't pay the dues. There are 9 counties in the state of Oregon that pays 60% of the dues to the Association of Oregon Counties. These 9 counties are also at the very front lines of the state's toughest problems, not only on economic development, land use, crime, homelessness, and you just name it. So that's where we're at. I'm not sure who was up first, Ben or Paul? Ben?
That is 1,000% correct, Chair. But there's another way to look at this too, is that the smallest county, Wheeler County, pays $7.35 per resident, and we pay about 30 cents per resident when it's broken down. Here's the bottom line, is that the people that we're battling right now and the big, bold things we're gonna do, they have endless special interest group money and advocacy. They can cut $1 million check or invest insane amount of monies in political campaigns, and then they have most of the levers of power. We have the counties. And sometimes when we want to take on big fights, we have to have those allies and strengthen those allies. I think as we get ready to do big things, we have to have, and we ask big things of neighboring counties that are paying this due, that we are saying we're linking arm in arm with you and we're going to get it done, and we need to be a part of this organization, and they're key to us being successful and having those allies.
Okay. Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, again, I'm looking at this big picture. I think if AOC can be instrumental, and they have been in the past, in stopping unfunded mandates, it's worth every penny and then some.
Well, I would agree about the unfunded mandates if they could agree on that's what they need to lobby on. And I've been saying that for years. I think the AOC would have a tremendous, tremendous success, and the only thing they need to lobby on is unfunded mandates or partially funded mandates, and yet they seem not to get the message, and that may be the rub. Commissioner Scholl, I really appreciate your support on this with me. However, to take this off the table and move on, I'm going to support the motion, and you can do whatever you want. I appreciate you watching out for the budgets. That's what I'm trying to do as chair, is be ever watchful of the budgets. Obviously, I don't have support of that today. Tony, please take the poll. You're done.
Commissioner Scholl.
No.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 3-1. Thank you very much. Next issue.
All right, thank you. Next issue, library issue, public request. Commissioner Savas asked for this item.
Yeah, thank you, Gary, Chair. As I kind of alluded to earlier, it became obvious to me that there's a cadence issue with when the packet comes out to when the public can speak about something or the public can even view the packet. And in light of the discussion last week, it was, and Chair, thank you for putting it on the agenda for February 1st, the agenda item for the libraries. When I was asked in conversations Thursday and onward, last few days here, when they could see the packet or when they could make public comment, I realized, oh my gosh, you can't see it, I can't see it, I don't have it, we don't have a packet yet. And not only that, but there's no opportunity to speak. So my simple request here today, where I'm really going with this, is that can we, for the February 1st meeting, add public comment at that February 1st meeting on these library issues? The reason, and I've talked to some of our former staff at Clackamas County who have served in the library area, former people that have been on the boards, and when they have watched us and listened to us recently, not all of them have said this, but I recognize it. This is so complex. that I'm sure that 1 hour of the work session itself in discussion is probably not going to really fairly examine and calculate and deliberate over all those particular issues. Gary and I spoke yesterday about this. We have no staff with institutional memory left who know this. So who's going to prepare the packet? I don't know. I'm not critical of staff at all, but the institutional memory and some of these details that are extremely important, and I'm not going to belabor them. I could raise and give you examples. I'm not going to do that, but this is a minefield, and I think I want to just applaud everyone because of all the different viewpoints on this, the fact that over all these years we've got everyone together, we've created a solution where all the cities and everyone's together on so many of these issues. I'm just very, very concerned that the solutions and the collaboration we have thus far could fall apart and have the ripple effect across the board. So that's my request, is to grant more time. And I want to make sure that, again, Gary, what is our ability to actually have the packet in the detail that it points out some of the misunderstandings my colleagues have, or I won't say misunderstandings, don't have all the information as well.
Gary, first of all, what is the topic of the February 1st library meeting?
The February 1st policy session is to discuss the Oak Lodge and Gladstone libraries, all of the various funding models that are available for you to make a final decision how to fund the funding gap.
Okay, so Commissioner Savas, the topic of this library meeting is how we're going to fund it and move forward. Since then, I think there's been some pots of money that has been identified. I am not interested in going through some of the overarching library issues that have risen recently. I do not mind that the public come forward to testify. I never do. But it needs to be narrowed to the library funding. Are you able to do that?
Do you mean the public comment? Well, that's what the session's all about, absolutely. That's what
That's what I'm talking
I don't have any
about.
disagreement. The packet needs to have to be complete to understand how we got here.
Well, and you made the comment that we no longer have institutional memory on whatever. I do not think it's necessary to go back ad nauseum through 10, 15, 8, or 7 years to know this. This board is a very different board that has acted in the past. We make decisions today and move forward. If we can identify, and I think we have, pots of money to fund the libraries, then we need to act on that. We are going to schedule, it's been scheduled for an hour?
1 hour, yes.
Well, how do we know people are even going to come if we schedule for 2 hours? And so you know what we're going to do is we're going to be flexible. What time on Wednesday is that scheduled for?
It's currently scheduled for 11:30 a.m. on Wednesday, February 1st for 1 hour, so we're extending into the lunch break for this topic.
And what else is, I don't have that schedule in front of me.
We're also discussing Project Turnkey program development, which you've also asked for. It's that same day. We could clear the schedule, so it's just those 2 items, and we could start earlier that day if you
And
want,
what
Commissioner.
is the third item that was scheduled?
Tony, help me here.
The third item is the 2023 Regional Transportation Plan projects.
Which also is timely and needed to be reviewed ideally that week.
Well, Commissioners, the reason why the schedule is set the way it is, because what I've observed in the past 2 years as chair, that my commissioners get up and leave at noon, and oftentimes we don't have a quorum. If you want to stay, work through the lunch hour and into the afternoon, I think we can take as much time as necessary. But it's going to take a willingness on all of us to stay here and not get up and leave if we are in disagreement of something or if we have an outside meeting scheduled, because our duties as elected officials is to be here at this dais doing the work. So I don't mind extending that. We can't put off any of this stuff anymore. We've got decisions that need to be made going forward. I don't disagree, Commissioner Savas, on the library issue. We have 2 other issues coming up that are timely that must be worked on. Commissioner West.
Can we start earlier too?
If we get through executive session, you've seen recently what's happened in executive sessions. Yes, we did, didn't we schedule something for 9:30 on one day?
So this will be a Wednesday, not your executive session day. Yes, you could start as
Oh,
early
that's
as
right.
you want, commissioners.
Yeah, we could start at 9. You know what, Paul, let's work on the schedule to accommodate your request, okay? Well, and I don't know what you mean about the packet information. I'm confused on what you're talking about.
Sure, I wanted to talk to you this morning, but you weren't in when I got
Well,
here.
let's talk to it afterwards.
Yeah, sure.
Can we do that?
Oh, yeah, yeah. But
All righty.
I do want to make one comment, Chair, and that is that, you know, I want us to feel comfortable and, you know, if there's a small opportunity for a break prior to the work session to get something to eat, 30 minutes or so, but maybe we ought to calculate that. We used to work in the afternoons. I'm accustomed to that, but I want to make sure we're all comfortable.
We never used to work in Wednesdays either, and so I added that on. You know, I would suggest we could take maybe a 10 or 15-minute break. A half-hour break, I think, might be too much. But let's try to look at the schedule. We're going to look at the schedule and see what we can do with that.
So public comment will be allowed?
Of course.
Okay, great, thank you.
And we'll just take a look at it and have the packet go out. Any further comments on this? See none. Gary, what's up next?
And I asked to meet with you too to talk about the staff report because it's due in 12 hours. And if you want a full history, that's going to be impossible. But I'll talk to you offline, Commissioner.
That's
And
fine.
share what that looks like. Okay.
Yeah, why don't we talk about the three of us
Thank
do
you.
that?
Final item today is Commissioner Communications.
Commissioner Scholl, you're up.
Well, yes, thank you. Yesterday, I had the privilege of visiting a turnkey project in Washington County out in Cornelius called Casa Amparo. It's managed by the Centro nonprofit, which has been around for about 50 years, helping Latino and communities, families find ways to integrate to American society. I also want to thank Vahid Brown and Adam Brown and Carolyn Hill for joining me there. Also, we had a rep from the Washington County Housing Office and one of the lead people from Centro, and then, of course, the management folks from Casa Amparo. It's a drug-free, strictly drug-free project, purchased for $2.2 million just recently, and they've got about a $2.9 million remodel they want to do. So that was a very good visit. I appreciated that. Tomorrow evening, I've got an MPAC meeting, tour of the jail tomorrow afternoon, and an inspection. Saturday, the 82nd Avenue Steering Committee will have its first tour of the 82nd Avenue area. We're going to get together Saturday morning and tour 82nd Avenue and see what kind of ideas we can come up with for that high-value transit corridor. And also, I'd like to thank President Tim Cook and the staff from the Clackamas Community College for the State of the College briefing last Friday. Now, that was very interesting. I was very impressed with how dynamic the college is in adapting to our changing society. That was very impressive. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas.
Well, I was going to try and count with my fingers how many transportation meetings I've been in since last Thursday, but I don't have enough fingers. But
That's what toes are for.
yeah, exactly. Well, you don't want me to take my shoes off. Yeah, we had JPAC last week. I didn't get a chance to give you my report. The big one yesterday was RTAC, the Regional Transportation Advisory, or Regional Tolling Advisory Committee. Some new members, the new commissioner from, not new, but new for transportation, got reassigned. Mingus Maps was there, and then some other new folks, new faces. The mayor of West Lynn, Mayor Rory Bliastowski. And so we had a great meeting, and I'll give you an example of one of my comments, one of my concerns. I asked the question, what is going to be the O&M, the operations and maintenance costs for collecting the tolling and the tolling operation? And I was on the heels of a comment made by the gentleman from the Federal Highway Administration. and his comment was 5%. And I go, wow, that's pretty interesting, but I'm really concerned that there's a lot of eyes on this. The world's watching, and ODOT's told us that their number is 30%, and I'm hearing examples from other states of much higher than that for the administration cost. So, that had not been reconciled, but it certainly raised some eyebrows, for example. And so I'm kind of concerned that, what is the real number? And then one of the public speakers who spoke under public comment mentioned that the state of Washington was north of 40% for the collection and tolling. And they don't toll all the lanes with a couple of minor exceptions of a bridge or so. They're not tolling all the lanes. So I'm, as an example, that's one of the things I've been working on. So I've been inundated over the weekend and since Thursday between tolling and libraries and turnkey. The amount of calls, I lost my voice Friday. I got it back Saturday for a little while and I lost it towards the end of the day. So it's been very, very busy. I actually got a chance to take some time off around 5 o'clock on Sunday and take a breather. And have a somewhat quiet evening. But I've been busy. It's been busy. And last night I left here at 9:30 at night. I was at DSB. We had our the Library District Advisory Committee called LDAC, which is a function of the requirement of the library district. And chatted with them about a number of concerns that affect all of Clackamas County. A lot of passion. The focus of the conversation were really every library, even had some folks come up to me from Molalla Library as well about concerns and issues. And, some cities are doing just fine. They have enough revenue. Some cities don't have enough revenue to operate their libraries. So this is a problem that's only going to worsen as the years go by. And so they want to come up with a solution. They have asked, they asked me, and I've told them that by April or so, there's a date certain, by April, I'll work with our staff and come back with, they want to ask us to re-engage or restart the process of having that discussion we had prior to COVID. That was all shut down because of COVID. So we had a process where we involved all the city managers and a task force. We had this all underway. It was humming along. The board approved it, and then COVID hit, and we had to shut it down. And since then, we're all repairing right now, and the city managers and the cities are trying to get their legs underneath them right now. So they asked to have the process initiated because they're concerned about the future of libraries, be able to fund it. The library district itself funds, for the most part, a good portion of the operating cost. It'll alleviate the county of several $1 million a year of general fund obligation that we were helping with those libraries. And the idea was that this would relieve the county general fund, which it did significantly. However, that millage amount might have to be adjusted, or boundaries might have to be adjusted so that there's more equity and fairness in the distribution formula based on population. And we've grown substantially in population in the rural areas. So the rural libraries might be more struggling than perhaps the urban libraries due to the nature. But that's my brief touch on the last 7 or 8 days here.
Commissioner West.
It's been a blur. Totally a blur, but I've been having fun. Meeting with many of the departments within the county and getting more and more acquainted with the county has taken up a lot of my time. Very impressed by the work that much of our staff does in the day-to-day work. Let's see, I had really productive, important meetings, especially regarding turnkey with the director and the staff with H3S. I thought that was very productive. Commissioner Savas and I were in that meeting as we're trying to help bring more valuable data and information and vision and planning for the Quality Inn property, and just give the board more depth of knowledge and input, and the community also in a public way. So I think that's been very important. I had the opportunity to spend some time with the Department of Transportation and Development with Dan and his team. Got a great briefing and overview on the complexity of transportation, also considering the complexity within tolling. Strategies have been happening about how we can address that as a county behind the scenes have been engaged in, which has been fantastic. Saw our new building in Oregon City for our new service and management building, which is exciting and a much needed asset and a really smart way the county has done this before I was here. I know Chair Smith said that was one of the first votes that you ended up jumping in on, but since then you guys have handled that brilliantly. So kudos to you guys. Also had a very, I think, and I will download this hopefully with you later, Chair, a meaningful and meeting with Metro Council President Lynn Peterson. Introductory time with her, and kind of that relationship between the county and Metro. Let's see, what else did yesterday I already mentioned this in a meeting with Tom Ellis, where we talked about local city issues and how that intersects with the county. And other stuff that's not going to the top of my mind. I spent a lot of time with the sheriff yesterday, the property over there on Sunnybrook, and the undersheriffs. So just plugging in and doing that work. So, yeah, and I think that the next couple of weeks will continue to be busy. So I look forward to reporting those activities to you.
Thank you. You know, I have not been one to sit here and extol about all the activities as a chair that I do, but I think I'm going to start. You know, I listen to my commissioners doing this and this and this, and as chair, I don't get the luxury of picking a topic that I like and getting to be the liaison for that. I have to do everything, sometimes all at the same time. I have to engage with people whom I don't necessarily like or believe they have our best interests at heart. I have to engage in topics and policy decisions that I don't like. But that is the duty of the chair. And when I bring budgetary issues before you today, like the dues increase, which is sickening to my stomach, I do that with a very heavy heart. And commissioners, we are faced with some budget decisions going forward, spending decisions going forward. And I will say this, since we've come out of COVID, we are in a very different society, both from a work standards point of view, from a people who wanting to stay at home and not come in, from inflation who has just increased our budgets and cost of doing business at the county, at every single business, from a restaurant to a bakery to everything else, to our local jurisdictions, the cities, our local parks districts, who want to continue their current service level, and they're looking for somebody else to pay the bills. You all need to go within your heart and decide, are we going to pay everybody's bills for them? We are putting together very concerted, thoughtful plans on how to manage through these inflationary times, and I implore my commissioners to do the same. Adjustments must be made. There is not an unending pot of money to do everything that we want to do. So I encourage us not to be divisive, but be collaborative and vote together to put the best possible budget forward as our staff will be bringing to us. I mean, I couldn't even get these commissioners to take a look at travel expenditures. Holy cow, we know they're going to increase because airlines are raising flights and restaurants are charging more for money, and the cost of all of these associations that we're attending. And I also asked my tri-counties, you know, how much do you spend on travel? And Washington County says $5,000 per commissioner. It's called travel and training. Multnomah County Chair didn't really know because, number one, she's new and she had to exit early, but we need to start being mindful of this. I'm very serious about this moving forward. Everybody wants what they want, and if you want We can spend down the entire general fund, we can spend down our entire reserves and contingencies until we have nothing. So I would like every single one of us to get serious about what we're doing, and it's this board moving forward. Hearing no other business before this meeting, we are adjourned.